What did we learn yesterday from the AFC North? Obviously, we learned nothing about the Browns. The Bengals, we all thought they should, but they returned closer to the Bengals than they were last year in handling Arizona pretty easily. Pittsburgh, though, I think is the team that's got an arrow going up next to their name right now. What do we make of this muddled AFC North?
Although the Ravens are still the favorites in Vegas to win the North. Browns are second choice. Bengals and Steelers tied for third.
Wow.
Because the Steelers are – how the Steelers are 3-2, I have no idea.
They gut stuff out, Bull. They did it yesterday.
The Ravens handed the game to the Steelers just like the Browns handed the game to the Steelers.
They did. You're right. But
handed it to them.
But in their defense, they beat them the same way they beat the Browns. Same play. Highsmith got free. There was T.J. Watt. The guy was born under the right star. No question about that. But they make splash plays at impactful times in the game. And I agree with you, Bull. They're not dripping with talent.
Their offense stinks.
Here's what they do. They gut out wins when they should be losses.
Now, the difference between the two was this one happened. The Steelers were already winning the game at this point.
Yes.
In this game.
They iced it.
They iced it with that run, as opposed to in the Browns game where it gave them the win.
Also, I don't think it's coincidence that these are divisional games where this stuff's happening, where you play these guys all the time, you know them so well, and weird things happen. We saw what the 49ers did to the Steelers. They pulled their arms and legs off and beat them with them. And hopefully that doesn't happen again this Sunday.
The Texans beat the Steelers.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, I put zero stock in the Steelers. None. Zero. I would never make a bet ever in my life, but if I did, I would pick the Bengals to win the division. Like, I think they're putting it together and they're putting the wheels back on the cart.
I mean,
that's the team to me.
Forget that, man. Listen, the Steelers, you say what you want to about them. They beat the Browns.
Yep.
They found a way to beat the Ravens. And once again, you look at the roster, you think they don't got nobody, and all of a sudden, they're right there looking at you.
We tried telling you that. You and I kept saying that.
Bury this team.
They still haven't won a playoff game since Anthony's been able to drink.
Well, I'm not worried about the playoffs. I'm worried about us getting to the playoffs, and they're clearly a roadblock.
Sure, of course. Listen, here's the thing with the AFC North right now. Things change as the year goes.
Sure.
We have different opinions at different times. Right now, all four of these teams are mediocre. All four are mediocre.
I would agree with that, Bull, but here's where I would take it moving forward. There's one team that has the ability to be elite amongst those four, and it's the one in last place, in my view. We have not seen the full-on Cincinnati Bengals yet. We're starting to see glimpses of them, but they have the pedigree. They're the ones going to Super Bowls and AFC Championship games. And they're young, and that core is still together, and they are going to figure this out. And I'm surprised. If I'm in Vegas, I've got Cincinnati as the top pick, the Ravens as the second pick. As much as I hate to say this, the Steelers as the third pick, and the Browns as the fourth pick. Now, I don't think there's a huge difference between 2 and 4. I think those teams are very, very close. But I think the Bengals are still the crown is on their head.
Did any of you guys watch much of the Bengals-Cardinals game yesterday?
On and off, bits and pieces.
Okay.
No, I was at baseball camp.
I watched pretty much the whole thing.
Sure, as I would expect.
Now, obviously they played a lot better.
Yeah.
And Burrow, for the first 4 weeks, Burrow looked like 50% Joe Burrow.
Right.
Yesterday, he looked like 90%. He still wasn't perfect.
You mean health-wise with the leg?
He still wasn't perfect. He still missed on a couple of throws.
Did he run much?
He had a couple of runs, and just a couple of times where he moved out of the pocket, not even to run, just to give a little more time.
Slide in the pocket.
Where it was like, okay, you could tell he's healthier now.
Okay.
Now, he's still not 100%, but he was close enough that the offense could perform, and obviously Chase just caught everything and went off. But the Bengals still have problems. Let me tell you, they're a flawed team.
What would you say?
First of all, their offensive line
Yeah.
is still a problem. They spent a ton of money on Orlando Brown Jr. He's been lousy so far this year. I thought he's better than what they had at left tackle, Jonah Williams, who's now playing right tackle, but he's not playing particularly well. Again, better than Jed Wills, but he's not really playing well. And defensively, you look at the final score and you see 20 and you'd be like, well, that's a pretty good job. Well, first of all, it's the Cardinals.
Right.
Josh Dobbs is not a starting NFL quarterback. I know he's been okay. He's not a starting NFL quarterback.
Right.
Number two, a big thing that happened in this game that unless you were watching, you wouldn't know. James Conner, the former Steeler running back, is it James Conner, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, I don't know why it sounded wrong in my head. He got hurt at the end of the first, right at the end of the first half.
Oh.
He was killing the Bengals between the tackles, killing them. I think he had 6 carries for 40-something yards.
Yeah.
And when he got hurt, the Cardinals couldn't run between the tackles anymore.
That was it.
And then Dobbs became one-dimensional, and they can't win that way.
Right.
So they're out. But the Bengals defense has problems. I don't know if it's the young guys that have taken over in the secondary from the veteran safeties. I don't know if it's maybe DJ Reader kind of slipping in the middle of that D-line.
Doesn't that sometimes, because there's so much communication involved, doesn't that sometimes, when you insert a new piece, take a couple of weeks?
It could, and there's a lot of talent on that side of the ball, but they're not playing well. So while I would agree the Bengals have the most upside, or most proven upside of the 4 teams,
Right.
I'm not convinced the Bengals are right yet.
Good. I hope you're right and I'm wrong.
And keep in mind, listen to the Bengals schedule, all right? The next 4 weeks. They got Seattle at home. That's a tough game.
Sure.
Then a bye.
Wait, Seattle at Seattle or they're
No,
in
at home
Cincinnati?
in
Okay,
Cincinnati.
Okay.
Then a bye. Then back-to-back weeks. I can't remember which is the home, which is the road, but they're playing San Francisco and Buffalo back-to-back weeks. Then they play Houston, and then they play Baltimore. So they got a stretch of games that are tough. Now, I always say when you're a good team, you don't care who you're playing.
Right. We'll find
Doesn't
out what
matter.
they
But
are
we'll
after
find
that
out
stretch.
how.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced they're all the way back, or that they're that much better, if better at all, than any of the other teams in the North.
okay.
I think they're close.
The thing that alarms me with that is the fact that the Bengals have not been playing good at all, and you look up and they got 2 wins.
That's
just
true.
They're
They're
one
right
game-
there.
they're one game out of first
despite
place.
playing
Like,
poor
so you
football.
think you're like, wow, we feel encouraged, but no, like they get the Seahawks at home. Theoretically, if they win that game, I think they'll be what, 3-3.
Yep.
You lose that game, guess what? Because guess what? Who we play? We got the 49ers this week. We lose that game, now you're 2-4. Now you're
No,
2-3.
2-3. Sorry.
Yeah.
So now you're 2-3, and you're like, what just happened?
If the Browns lose to the Niners and the Bengals beat the Seahawks, the Browns will be in last place, at least through week 6.
So to me, like I said 6 games. Do I feel good about that? No. You were in last place after 6 games.
You know, so you've got 6 games. To me was, don't make me pull this car over. Now the saying is don't, or F around and find out.
Yeah.
So when you said that, you've got 6 games. What would be your line of wanting action, and what would you want that action to be?
The line of action is
Was it 2-4?
The line of action was 1. You can't be 1 and something. Like you can't be
So
1 and 4.
2-4 is not DEFCON ready.
2-4 is not DEFCON like 1. But the thing that makes you disappointed is you're 2-4 and you're in last place again. Right. You ended last year in last place, and you're just fighting for relevancy here. At some point you can't keep finding yourself. But it seems that it doesn't matter where the talent's coming from, how you stack the talent, who you brought in, whatever the case may be. You look up and it's a disappointment, because if you lose this week, I look at the other rosters and I say, well, look at the improbable wins the Steelers get, right?
And that's it. What I said, the Steelers gut out wins. Look at the difference in your schedule and how you feel about yourself. If you're 2-3 after the Niners game and in last place, or if you didn't allow the Steelers to gut one out against you, and you did what you were supposed to do, you're 3-2, and everything feels, and tastes differently.
Looks different, man.
So 2-4 for me is a sideways start.
Well, 2-4.
It's hard to get the car back in the right direction.
If you're 2-4, disaster struck, because you got Gardner Minshew.
That's right.
In week 6, or I guess it would be week 7.
Week 7,
at
but
Indy.
game 6.
So that you better win that one. So I don't think 2-4. I could see 3-3. I don't think we're staring down 2-4. But the AFC,
didn't Minshew beat the Ravens?
Yes.
Yeah. But I still think.
So I don't think anything's a given in the NFL.
In the NFL, it's not. It's not. And for the AFC, I still put the Chiefs, Bills, and the Dolphins to me are up here, and then it's everybody else.
Right.
So the Bulls point that it's a.
Well, I agree with that.
It's a mediocre division. Well, yeah, it's a mediocre conference outside of those top 3.
Right.
Once you slot those top 3 in whatever order you want. And maybe some people want to take the Bills out. I don't, and I absolutely.
Well, the Bills housed the Dolphins, so
Yeah,
I don't
did.
think you should take them out.
So I put those 3 in the top, and then slot whoever else, however you want, and
Right.
and the entire division, AFC North, falls into that. I think it is mediocre, and I agree that. Like I said, if I was making a bet, I'd put my money on the Bengals to win the division.
Yeah,
I just don't think that's.
And I'm with you on that. I think the more we always talk about small sample size. The more pieces of the puzzle we get to see, the easier it is to see what you're looking at.
Sure.
The picture starts to come into focus. And for me, there really have not been any major surprises in the AFC. The Chiefs are the Chiefs. They haven't been as dominant as I thought they would be. The Bills lost a couple of games that were head scratchers, but they've also looked like the Bills.
Yeah.
And the Dolphins have more offensive yards than any team in the history of the NFL through the first 5 games
I
of the
think
season.
that's been the most.
They're
That's
better
a
than
surprise. I
thought
thought
they'd
they'd be good,
but not.
They've been all-time
This
great.
Devin Achane is absurd.
He's unbelievable.
You know he's averaging over 12 yards a carry.
I heard that yesterday.
That's
You give him the
ridiculous.
ball, it's because he has the home run. He's got 4 or 5 home run balls this
How
year.
did that guy go 80-something in the draft?
Well, so you watched him in college
And high school.
and high school.
Yeah.
Here's what I think he was a victim of. Here's another world-class track guy that wants to be a football player. I think that mentality has permeated NFL GMs. Now, our guy took a shot on Anthony Schwartz, and where is he now?
Right.
He's probably training for the 2024
Yeah, and
Olympics.
it's only been a few games. Maybe he gets hurt. Maybe he's never the
Yeah,
same.
but
You don't know.
I've seen enough
But
of HN
my God.
to know that guy
He's
is
better.
legit.
Can I
He's
tell you
better than
something
any
real quick?
offensive player Andrew Berry has drafted while he's been here.
That's not even close.
Mikey wants to make a point about
Yeah.
So this kid's been underrated and overlooked his whole. He was a 3-star recruit coming out of high school, despite scoring 171.
Why was he
touchdowns in
small
4
coming
seasons.
out of high school?
Yeah, he's 5'9", $180. Like he's not
Right.
a huge guy, but he was always significantly faster, and he scored 170 touchdowns at a powerhouse program in Texas
170?
in 4 years. Yeah.
Okay, shame on all the big-time recruiters.
3-star
there.
now his
I don't
his
care if he was
offer
playing
list-
in Montana and it was 7-man football.
That's 43
His offer
touchdowns
list-
a year.
That's
Yeah.
4 a game.
Well, so his offer list for a 3-star recruit was his final 3 was Bama, LSU, A&M. Went to A&M.
Okay, so they caught on to him.
So he
Okay.
just was, but because the recruiting systems, they all, if you're not 6'4" and jacked and massive.
Did
you
he
get
go to
knocked
A&M
down.
because he wanted to stay home?
He's from Houston. It was best chance for him to get early playing time. He played behind Isaiah Spiller, who's now on the Chargers.
Okay.
They split time. He never got a ton of carries at A&M because I think the wear and tear factor, just they're a little hesitant to give him like the full RB
Yeah,
workload.
he's not a workload back.
But since every time he's ever had a chance to touch the ball, he's been dynamic. And
On
he
all
makes
levels.
fast
Crazy.
guys.
It is
he makes
crazy.
fast guys look slow.
I
Yeah.
took him in the
Fast he is.
last round of our fantasy draft. Not ours.
Not this one, yeah.
My other fantasy league. And
Yeah.
everybody was like, who? Who is this guy? And the only reason I took him is because I'd read a couple articles
Yeah.
that, like, if you're looking for a guy that could absolutely shock everybody, here he is. And I thought, what the heck? It's the
What's
last big
funny,
thing.
in our league, I took him. After the
And then you
second
released
week,
him.
I released him. Fortunately, I had the top waiver pick to get him back.
I never saw that you'd released him or
Oh
I
my
was snatched
God.
him up. I never saw it.
It's just it's a philosophy in what you do. Like
Yeah.
they're gonna draft fast players. They already had fast players. They trade for fast players. Now, my problem is, look, hey, we go and get David Bell's 4'7" guys. And you're like, I wonder why David Bell isn't breaking. Oh, he's
Something we got to talk about this week is why is Cedric Tillman not getting an opportunity?
I wish I knew.
Because he needs
I mean,
to get.
if he's not good enough to get on the field with this group of wide receivers,
Yeah.
then he might be the most recent wide receiver draft
That's
bust.
fair. But again, on the other hand, like I really believe the Browns can win this division. And when we talk about making a trade, I think the Browns need to remain aggressive because I think in the end, this division is very much up for grabs. If you look in Vegas, there's only 2 divisions where the favorite to win is not minus money. You know, minus money means you're a pretty big favorite, right?
Yep.
The only 2 divisions where there's not a team with minus money is this and the NFC South. That's it.
Wow.
Which means there's no clear favorite. Like the difference between the Ravens that I saw this morning and the Steelers and Bengals, who are tied for 3rd, is not much. Like that could change week to week.
Hell, I'll
it's
even
a
throw
total
the Browns
toss-up.
in there. I mean, we can't forget that the Browns have this elite defense. Or
Right.
What we
No,
thought
that's what I'm
was.
saying. The Browns are the
like,
second
even,
choice.
Even like I just think AFC North is a blender division. You could play it out 10 times. You might get, one team might only win it 3.
That's right.
And so
It's gonna come down to, guys, what we've said all year long. If Deshaun Watson plays like we saw him against Tennessee, Browns have a very reasonable chance to win this division.
Agreed.
If he plays like the guy we've seen all the other games leading up to that, they're not going to win the division.
You're
It's
right.
that simple.
It's absolutely.
You know, the
absolutely
defense
right.
could play great, and the defense is going to play well enough that the Browns will win their fair share of games. But whether or not they win the division is coming down to how good Deshaun Watson plays.
I think it's time that you start saying it comes down to what this coach is going to do too. There's too many times where we look at it on the other side of the field and we're just taking him out of the equation. Like Kevin is not going against Shanahan. Like Kevin does not have to pull his part of it too. If the Browns continue to run this vanilla playbook, they will not beat nobody close to the 49ers.
But here's the bottom line, G. None of the coaches in this division, in terms of offense, I know that the Steelers and Ravens have great head coaches. But in terms of offense, there's no genius in this division.
Well, the Bengals do scare me offensively.
But just because they have the most talent, not because Zach Taylor's that great an offensive play
Look, I'm not going to put him in the genius category, but when you have a Joe Burrow and you have the core of receivers that they have,
yes,
and a Mixon, who is a very serviceable, better than serviceable running back, you've got the components.
Right, they've got more talent.
So that's why they scare me more than anybody,
yes.
because Baltimore's offense looks pedestrian at times. They get the ball the first drive yesterday. They march it down the Steelers like they're going to win 42-10.
Right.
And then they just took a dirt
But
nap.
even the second drive, they marched down again, got stopped in the red zone field goal, and then they couldn't move the ball.
That was it. That was it.
I think they're throwing the ball too much. They are clearly a running team in there. But anyway.
The danger of looking at what they do against other teams is they play different against you. It doesn't matter what they do again. Like when they come play us, they just find ways to win.
Well, those are like to Jason's point. It's a divisional game. We know one another.
Yes.
And there's just that feeling that with Baltimore, their coach is going to get them over the top, and with Pittsburgh, their heart, desire, and guts are going to get them over the top. Where the hell is our advantage with coaches or with guts or with pride and heart?
Well, I think you have an advantage with your defensive coordinator. I
would agree with that.
I don't think Kevin Stefanski's an advantage. I think Kevin Stefanski's a mid-tier coach.
Lamar Jackson's throw in the red zone, it was
horrible.
On 3rd and goal, you took 3 points off the board. What was he thinking with that throw? His man wasn't open. He threw it directly to the defender. Sometimes I'm watching Lamar Jackson, and I'm wondering if already there are some fans that don't have buyer's remorse on his big contract, because he is not the Lamar Jackson that we saw 3 years ago.
Now, this idea of turning him into more of a passing guy is a mistake, I think.
Mike's got a news update.
Yeah, question real quick. Before I read you guys a tweet, and maybe this is nothing, maybe it's something, I'm not sure. Was Deshaun Watson expected to practice today?
Uh-oh.
Was never really discussed.
Well, Jake Trotter just tweeted he is not on the field for practice today, on the sideline with parentheses shoulder.
So, yeah, that's not great. That's not good.
Well, that also tells me
now it's only Monday, but
it also tells me that if this were not a bye week, he would not have been on the field yesterday. So I do feel better about the bye being week 5 now.
Yeah, Zach tweeted Njoku, Posick, and Bitonio also were out. Myles Garrett did practice. So it's only Monday. Yeah, of course you'd rather him be out there than not be out there.
I just got a little sick feeling in my stomach.
But just because...
I was just asking, and I don't know what to read into that. I know it's early, but...
It's not like... If he were healthy, I think he would be practicing today, don't you?